Olympics a little bit.
Hello and happy Monday, everybody. I hope everybody had a great weekend. It's been pretty busy, of course, as always for us.
My weekend was phenomenal.
Okay.
And I'm looking forward to it getting even greater in the coming days as we get closer to the August 1st date, because that's when um, the track and field begins for the Olympics.
Really? It starts that soon?
It does.
Okay.
And so tonight we're going to talk a little bit about one of Shonda's favorite events of all time, and it's the Summer Olympics. I think she likes Olympics in general, but the summer you're partial to, correct?
It's my favorite of the two, but I love them almost equally the same.
Well, I'm excited because she gets really um, animated and hyped up, and she's kind of mellow and low key now. And I'm hoping that because we're talking about this, that the energy is getting ready to spike up, and she's getting ready to get really into this, because what we're talking about tonight is when couples compete. And many of you know that Shandi and I have entertained the masses in a competitive banter one with another about the NFL, as we both are passionate about our teams. And we are talking about when couples compete, which is one of those moments in relationships that individuals' energies rise to a high, and it might even get to a place where it is out of balance and beyond reasonable levels and passions and the sort. And we want to kind of talk about that briefly, because um, um, it can stand in the way of happiness and future plans and a lifelong love that you probably have longed for and desired very reasonably, but can't figure out, well, what is standing in the way? It could be that competition is the pitfall. So, but before we get there, what is it about the Olympics that you like the most, the Summer Olympics?
I love when people's dreams come true. I mean, yeah, I wasn't an athlete. I've never been an athletic type of person. And so I can't relate on the athletic prowess of people, but I do totally appreciate and honor hard work, dedication, working towards goals, discipline, and everything that it takes to be an athlete.
So you often talk about cheering for the underdog. Is that something that carries over in the Olympics as well?
From time to time, but I also appreciate, like I said, people's hard work and dedication, and that people have been working on this for years, sometimes decades. And so, um, yes, I was cheering for the men's gymnastics team, which would be considered and spoiler alert. Well, I won't even talk about that in case you haven't seen it, but because they're going to play it tonight. But yes, so I was a total, I mean, I really appreciate I do root for the underdog, but I root for the goats too.
Right.
I do.
You've been rooting for Simone.
I've been rooting for Simone.
And is there any reason why underdog would overrule your rooting for Simone?
I mean, now I do not believe in everybody getting a trophy.
Okay.
However, I'm team Brazil too. And they would be considered the underdog.
Oh, no
So
doubt about it.
yeah.
They're the
So
underdog.
if Simone and the crew don't pull it out, I would want no one else but Brazil to win.
All right.
So I mean, it just depends. It's not a one size fits all type situation.
Yeah. Well, I'm Team USA unless USA ain't in there, and then we go to some other teams. But I think that is something that I just gravitate towards the Stars and Stripes. And I asked that question simply because I wanted to see how we can end up in a particular frame of mind and why we are pushing for a particular thing. Oftentimes, our reasoning is so distinct. It's so opposite and in its unique pathway. And the same thing happens in relationships. So what happens when competitive juices flow in relationships? This occurs when two people in a relationship are competing against each other, oftentimes not just wishing somebody else well, not pushing for somebody else, but when the tensions arise and it's a tug of war, or it's a battle between the two individuals in the relationship, and they're seeking to win or be better than the other instead of operating as a team. And that can really become something that creates a divide that a lot of couples will struggle to bridge back together. And have you seen that in our relationship? Because I think a lot of people who might watch this might know of our NFL banter and maybe have some strong perceptions that I think the perceptions would be wrong. But go ahead.
Outside of the Cowboys versus Giants,
Mm-hmm.
I think we and sometimes politics, but
Mm-hmm.
but otherwise, I
Mm-hmm.
think we are pretty much Team Starks.
Yeah. And so let me go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I really do. I thank God, because both of us are extremely competitive.
Right.
So I don't think we would do well if we were competing against one another.
We wouldn't. We wouldn't do well.
We go for I mean, we kind of have a family rule. Like when we're playing board games and cards like spades, if we can't be on the same team, it's not gonna go well.
Because because you know how to get in your foxhole and I get in my foxhole, right? Mm-hmm. But many experts will say that with competition, partners that are in competition with each other, they're viewing each other as rivals instead of as teammates. And often the competition is a quest to see who can develop a greater success or bragging opportunity or power than the other, over the other. And believe it or not, this tends to be something that is attributable more so not just to athletics or to the Olympics, but to careers. According to leading experts, they're saying couples get together and they become most competitive when it comes to matters of their professional career journey and achievement. As a career professional, because that's in the arena of what you do, have you noticed any truth to this? Have you noticed any dynamics?
I'm trying to think of some examples. I mean, it's probably you tell me. I mean, I can't think of.
No, I mean literally in the professional arena, as you've been making placements and so on and so forth. I know one of the things that might happen is as you place someone, their partner might be in need of assistance as well. And I just wondered if you noticed any of that. But the leading research has said that that's the case. But I was just wondering if you experienced any of that.
I'm sure I have.
Okay.
I'm sure I have. I just can't think of an example right now.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Well,
Because I can see it happening very much so, because so
Absolutely.
many people find their value through their profession.
Yes.
I just think we might be kind of isolated with that because of I mean, but I know it to be the case. I
Mhm.
mean, I can guarantee that that happens because so many people, they are what they do.
Right.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Mhm.
That's exactly what that derives from. Them finding greater identity in their job, in their goals as a professional or as a an entrepreneur more than they find their identity in their spouse, in their mate, which is ironic because the scripture says that the two shall become one flesh,
Mhm.
right? They're going to become one, and yet we have seen competitive juices flow and flow to a flood level and cause drowning of the relationship, if I can speak metaphorically, because of the failure to become unified instead of becoming competitors and ultimately divided. And so um, uh, these leading experts have said that couples are are better off finding the opportunity to complement one another instead of compete with one another, because relationships are intended to be team building and not a a, uh, a stressing point where you're trying to figure out who's going to win and who's going to lose. Who's going to win and who's going to lose. So even when we talk about this whole thing about winning and losing, um, let's talk about that, because a lot of times couples get into the rut of trying to win and lose arguments, win and lose issues over money, win and lose with respect to who the children are most um, drawn to. You know, asking that proverbial question, who do you love more, mommy or daddy? I've seen numerous TikToks where they will stand next to each other and put the baby over at this point and let the baby walk toward them and say, come on, come on, come on, come to daddy. No, come to mommy. And then whoever gets it is the champion, if you will, and the other just looks like they have just been defeated.
Do I do that?
Babe, you have done something similar. We've not quite done that experiment.
But in seriousness, it's more. I mean, I know I have mine, and I have my one, and you have your four.
You talk about the ones who prefer?
Yes, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay because it shifts from time to it ebbs.
But is that real? Now, I think you make some comments that will tend to put the children in a place where they feel pressured. But I don't want to believe that you are actually
I'm not
competing.
I think I've always told you this. I think even as far as they look. Now, sometimes I do say, like when people try to tell you that Sydney and Victoria look like you, I'm like, okay, you've lost your mind because they do look like me. But I get it. People are drawn to. But but more so, Adrian, and I think we need to touch on this because people, especially some of the leaders and staff members at our church, they see us go toe to toe. sometimes, particularly the staff. I
She
don't
just
think,
scared me. I had to drink on that because
yeah.
I didn't know what you mean. We gotta
No,
go
seriously, because there are times when we're dealing with issues or making decisions at the church where I am very strong with my opinion.
here.
Um, and I've even had to say, you all, it don't, because they get tense, and me and you are just kind of sparring a little bit, but it's because you respect and value my opinion
Right.
most days.
Right.
Right. And vice versa.
Right.
But we aren't competing. Like, I'm not trying to have the last word. I'm just trying to get a word and trying to get you to consider my point of view.
Mhm.
But even when we do that, and y'all, sometimes it has gotten intense and to the point where, God bless him, Pastor Sean, I think goes into intercession. He comes in, and then I'm like, hey, it's over. We're done. Like, and it's not that we are competing for position.
Right.
We are arguing our point, which we do kind of passionately.
So why would you distinguish the two? Why would you distinguish a passionate discussion from a competition?
Because I am not trying to win. I'm trying to get you to see my point of view and consider it. So ultimately, like, if you don't agree with me,
Mm-hmm.
You know, after our cooling off period,
Mm-hmm.
you know, maybe 24, typically 24, sometimes 48
Mm-hmm.
hours, it's over. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So, and I hope Pastor Sean watches this, because he's the one who I think gets most nervous, because we've had our moments.
Yeah,
right?
we have.
But it's not that I'm trying to be the bishop or the pastor. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree. I don't think that's the only factor at play either. I think sometimes it is how something gets said that oftentimes might be misconstrued as being a competitive tone, that because the passions get high, you know, when competition is established, there's a lot of jaw jacking. There's a lot of what do they say? Comments like your father would say they are doing the dozens. When we play card games, individuals talk smack, right? I think sometimes those also lend to coloring a moment that would lead someone into a competitive mindset that will not necessarily be the true intent, but it's now becoming tense. Mm-hmm. Like if you see individuals on NFL films, you hear when they mic up players and they're in a huddle, they are flat cussing, or they're screaming outside the huddle. I remember Lawrence Taylor talking about, hey, Jacoby, I'm getting ready to come and knock you all the way in the dirt, that kind of thing, right? Why? Because they're in a competitive mode, and the passions are high, and it can be construed as being something that it's not.
And I think I've done that a few times in front of others.
Right. And that's what I wanted her to admit. That's exactly why I came up with that oddly placed example of Lawrence Taylor.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, I'm not one to back. I mean, I'm not competitive in the athletic field, but as far as sparring, debating, sharing my opinion, I can probably spar with the best of them.
Right.
So,
right. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to games versus life decisions. When it comes to games versus life decisions, and when I say life decisions, I'm talking about who's got the who's going to, will we move, will we buy a large purchase? um Why are you laughing?
I'm just thinking about the large purchase in our driveway.
um will we will we will the kids go to a particular school? Are these the same? Do you see how these things end up becoming competitions that end up destroying a marriage?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Not necessarily the game. Let's take the game away.
Yeah.
But these other factors. So let's talk about how these things can end up becoming a platform of competition and proves to be, as we wind this up, and it proves to be a path for the end of the relationship.
Because and I don't know if this is the right answer, but ultimately in a relationship, especially in our relationship, it's all about team starts, really. It really is. And even if I totally disagree with you, I know, I put Team Starks over Shondi Starks, over Shondi Barksdale. I'm thinking team the whole time.
Right.
I really am. And so I say this often. There are times where you just have to take one for the team, right? And so ultimately, it's not about Shondi. And I think that's a lot of times when you're competitive, you're focused on you and you're not focused on the team.
Right. Because it's about the team winning. It's about the team crossing the finish line more so than it is about the individual. Right.
Yeah.
And there are times when I have to take one for the team as well. It's not just about what's in the driveway, but it's also, hello. It's also some other moments where if the relationship is healthy, there's going to be give and take for the betterment of the team, regardless. Keep chuckling, and maybe go ahead.
Go ahead.
I don't want you to have a convulsion over here.
No, I'm good. I'm taking one for the team.
Wow. I promise you, that has been a mutual path to walk. And in moments when I believe each day I'm taking one for the team, you're talking about a seminal moment, right? You're talking about a particular moment. Each day that
we both take one for the team daily.
The brown horse, the UPS truck arrives, and my name is rarely ever on a package.
I'm taking one for the team because I'm doing all the supply and
blessed be the name.
Blessed be the purchaser, the buyer for the home.
Yeah. And all of these shoes that's coming up in here that
for
ain't
your children,
for the home.
For your children. So anyway, finish your wrap up. Go ahead and wrap up.
Take one for the team and don't end up putting on a different color shirt is really the essence of what we're talking about, because the couple should be working from the same sideline as opposed to different sidelines, because again, the enemy desires you to become adversarial rivals as opposed to co-laborers, teammates, partners who are moving towards the same end game. And uh, if he's able to cause individuals who probably are operating from a strength, um, to turn that strength against the one who should be working with them, then that's how we see the dissolution of relationships, marriages, and families. And ultimately, we know that your success is going to have a generational impact. And the same way your defeat can have a generational impact, we are hoping that you will choose the success for the children and the children's children by making the decision to be teammates and not opponents. Any final words for you?
No, but no, and
No, but
no, I was just gonna say a good maybe follow up to this conversation would be talking about the power of agreement, because it's between two people,
Mhm.
couples, teammates, all of that. It's so much power and agreement, and maybe that'll be a follow up
Absolutely.
conversation. All right.
Well, hopefully, this has caused individuals to think. That's ultimately what we're trying to do. We're trying to encourage, inspire, and to cultivate a stronger thought process about what you are wanting and what you're doing and the direction that you're wanting to go. We want to say thank you to each of you for joining us tonight, and we pray the blessing of the Lord be upon your life, and whatsoever you touch, may it prosper. May it prosper. May your barns be full and your vats overflow with plenty. We love you. Take care. Join us next week. Until then, be blessed.
Go USA.
Yes.